I'm Margaret Juntwaite, your host for these broadcasts, which are being transmitted live to movie theaters all around the world. And I'm here with our very special co-host, opera legend Beverly Sills. I'm so glad you're with me this afternoon.
I am too. This is a lot of fun.
This story is an unusual one,
This
isn't
what?
it? The story?
Yes.
Rather unusual?
Well, if you can find it. I have always been a text lunatic. You know, I chose operas for the text, really, first. And when I read this one, I thought, oh, come on, English Civil War, Royalists, and Queen Enriqueta, that's right up my alley. But it's a privilege to sing this music. And I remember when I talked to my singing teacher about this, and I thought, you know, this loony lady singing these loony tunes, she gets 2 mad scenes, not 1. My teacher said to me, you know, when in doubt, walk to the center of the stage.
And
put your arms at your sides, stand still, and sing as well as you can.
Well, what happens is Elvira is in love with a member, she's a Puritan, and she's in love with a member of another group, the Royalists, who are enemies, Arturo. But she's been promised to Ricardo, and at the beginning, in the first act, we hear from Ricardo, and he's lamenting the fact that he doesn't believe that she loves him, actually. And we're going to hear today Eduardo Valdez as Bruno, Franco Vassallo as Ricardo, and our conductor for this afternoon is Patrick Summers in this performance that's coming to you live from the Met. Our concert master, Laura Hamilton, is tuning up the orchestra right now, and pretty soon we're going to be launching into it.
I'm looking forward to it. I really am. The poor baritone always gets to kick it off. It's the same thing in Lucia. They all seem to get the first lament, the first mad scene.
And is that why you call them the poor baritone? Because they've got to start the whole thing?
Yeah, it's very hard. And I'll tell you, the tenor's entrance is the nightmare of all nightmares.
That was the first scene of I Puritani, Bellini's last opera and a masterpiece of vocal opportunity. We heard Eduardo Valdez singing the role of Bruno, Franco Vassallo as Ricardo, and Patrick Summers is conducting in this performance that's coming to you live from the Met. Now, in the second scene, Beverly Sills, we're going to meet Elvira, who's afraid she has to marry Ricardo, but her uncle Giorgio is going to tell her she's going to be allowed to marry the man she really loves.
How do you like that?
Arturo.
We get in the opera there. It's got a happy ending. Everybody could go home.
Yeah. Is this a good warm-up scene for the soprano, would you say?
Yes, it is. And in this one, she's fortunate because the big, really difficult mad scene doesn't occur till the second act. So she has a time to adjust and get used to. But there really is no easy time on stage. You know, your head's in the guillotine the whole time.
Coming up in just a little bit, actually, the third scene, there's going to be a sort of a little mini mad scene, would you say?
Well, she's got a whole bunch of them here.
She does, doesn't she?
Yes, when in doubt, write a mad scene for the soprano, go to the center of the stage and sing it.
So in this scene, what do you think? Play it beseechingly or more demanding when she's asking her uncle?
Well, I mean, you know, this whole opera is kind of nutty because she's a Puritan, and as you see, she'll be in a gorgeous, glamorous dress. And, you know, she should probably be in some gray, woolly, itchy number. And, you know, they weren't allowed to touch anybody or do anything. I understand that I'm not supposed to dance. And, of course, she's, you know, she's moving beautifully and having a wonderful time. So
Let's go back to the opera now. Elvira's full of joy. She's going to be allowed to marry the man she loves in Act 1, Scene 2 of I Puritani, Bellini's lyrical comparison of extreme emotions.
Now, wouldn't it be nice if the opera ended right now?
It would be just perfect. We're done. We've had our happy ending. We heard Anna Netrebko and John Relier in that scene. And in the next scene, it's going to be on the verge of her wedding to Arturo, right?
Yes.
And she's going to be wearing her wedding veil. She's going to look beautiful, and she's going to sing Son Vergine Vezzoso.
Right.
Tell me about singing
well,
that
that's
aria.
a nice.
That must be fun.
That's a lovely aria to sing, and it really is not a mad scene. That's just a nice, happy, youthful aria, and it's a medicine for the voice, and it's fun to do, and it sort of sets her up. I always see Elvira as somebody very, very young, really young, teens, and very naive, obviously. I always played her when she went into the mad scenes, kind of catatonic. It was sort of nice just to stand up and sing. I really got the opportunity. Most of the roles I did were kind of hectic.
So that's one of the ways to go.
Yeah,
Is to just do it straight out.
yeah. I enjoyed Elvira, even though I never really knew what in hell was going on. But I I liked her, and I made up my own scenario. I never worried about the Queen that's coming in, or the Royalists, or the Puritans. I didn't bother with any of those. I just made her up as a girl who was in love with somebody she wasn't going to be allowed to marry. Eventually, got to marry.
Let's go back to the opera.
Okay.
We're about to hear Act Two of I Puritani, which is mostly concerned with Elvira's madness. Her uncle Giorgio is describing her state to the people of the household, and everyone feels a great deal of pity for her, but then she makes her entrance. Beverly, that must be such a thrilling moment.
It is, and you shouldn't feel pity for somebody who has something so gorgeous to sing.
How do you feel when you're backstage and you hear that tremolo of strings just as you're about to sing from backstage?
Can't wait to get on the stage to do it. This first phrase, this melody, is probably one of the most beautiful ever composed in opera. There's just nothing like it. This is a lovely mad scene because, as I said, if you want to, it's not staged that way for Anna here, but if you want to, you can just put your hands at your sides and sing and just, become involved in that glorious sound. But it is a funny mad scene. All mad scenes are manic depressives. They begin with a depressive, rather sad thing, and then all of a sudden we go into ecstasies, and they're fun to sing. And as I said, Bellini doesn't really go into much detail about madness. He goes into much detail about this young woman. But it's fun to see. I love these funny productions that are all over the place in terms of period and styles. But it's all, that's what's so wonderful about bel canto. You really do come to hear some beautiful singing.
When we were listening to that conversation between Renee and Anna, we could hear the call of the stage manager into the dressing rooms, and it sounds a bit chaotic back there. Is there really ever a chance to relax backstage?
Well, normally you don't do interviews. But it is chaotic. I mean, there is a makeup fix-up and changing of costumes. Some people thrive on it. I always had a lot of people in the dressing room. I liked that. I didn't like the energy level to go down to a dead silence. So I go along with Anna on that one. I like the noise and people. It kept my energy level high, too.
Well, I have heard that they have brought the house lights down to half, and very soon, the orchestra is tuning right now, and very soon we're going to be moving on to the next act of I Puritani. Just looking back for a second, we heard Eric Cutler sing one of a tenor's most intensely difficult entrances. He said it just terrifies him to make that entrance as Arturo.
Well, he's not alone, believe me. I sang it with some very well-known tenors and wound up with bruised arms and took a terrible beating with somebody else's nerves. It's frightening. I mean, the notes are written, only a dog can sing them. They're so high. Only a dog can hear them, I guess. So maybe Mr. Bellini should have taken a few singing lessons to see what he was imposing on the poor tenor.
We're coming to you live from the Met with I Puritani, Bellini's opera of civil war and strife. I'm Margaret Shuntwaite, and here with me is Beverly Sills.
Here's an opera with a happy ending.
Finally, we're going to get our happy ending, yeah.
I always used to tell the story about my husband who never stayed to the end of any opera, so he thought all operas had happy endings. When he left, everybody was still alive, singing and dancing.
Guess what, honey? It's not the case. In the final act, Arturo and Elvira are going to be reunited, and she will come to understand Arturo's loyalty and what he was doing, why he was spiriting away Queen Enriqueta, and that he was never unfaithful to her at all. Of course not.
He was a good fellow.
He was a very good fellow.
Yes, with lots of high notes. And he's got a whole bunch of them coming now.
Still to come.
Oh, gosh, yes.
And the messenger arrives and says,
all is well. Hug your girlfriend. Everything is going to be terrific, and you're going to end this with a nice little happy, chirpy song with lots of high notes in it, too. So what could be better?
Now, when we listened to that, you discussing singing bel canto, you called it medicine for the voice. I never thought of Bellini or Donizetti or Rossini as medicine for the voice. People always gave that term to Mozart.
Well, in one respect, for instance, the orchestrations are never enormous. When you're doing a Verdi piece, for instance, or Wagner and Strauss, you are bucking up against a whole mass of people beneath you. In the bel canto repertoire, fortunately, the size of the orchestra and the orchestration itself is a little bit kinder to assist you along. So that's part of it. Also, there was a line involved in bel canto that sometimes is not that prominent in the other composers' works. But Donizetti and Bellini wrote with a very sweeping line. You need tremendous breath control, a result. But the voice is not pummeled. The only exception I have to tell you is in Roberto Devereux, and that's by personal choice. But even in the Anna Bolena, it's written so wonderfully well. I think that Donizetti and Bellini, with the exception of what Bellini did to the poor tenor, knew the human voice and its capabilities, potential, and lack of. But I think he was just having a good time with the tenor.
Was he out to get tenors? What's going on?
I don't know. I can't figure that one out. But it puts the fear of God into every tenor. And I don't blame them. You walk on stage and boom,
you've got to do it. You've got to deliver.
It's a killer.
Well, you mentioned the thinner orchestration. That makes it very exposed for the singer. You can't hide behind that orchestration. That could be scary too.
Tell me an opera you can hide behind. In the real truth matter, if there could be 100 pieces underneath you, push comes to shove, opera is really about singing, and you can be a great actress, and I think that's certainly an integral part of the performance. But it's voice. Let's face it. You have to. That's what they've come to hear. It's like a bullfight. The excitement is that it's live. It's happening before you, and you have to make all the right moves.
And what about the stories? Are they just a hanger on which to drape this beautiful music?
No,
always.
I do think Puritani is a bit of a problem, but certainly Lucia is beautifully written. The text is incredible. Take a look at that mad scene, and take a look at the first aria. She's already mad. She is already talking about ghosts beckoning her into the rays of the moon. She's already gone.
So it's certainly not.
This is a woman who's nuts from the very beginning. Some of the other girls are a little tightly, the loony ladies.
But Elvira is sent over the edge. They're tuning the orchestra. Now, as you can see, Laura Hamilton, who's our concertmaster today, has just tuned up the orchestra. The house lights have come down. Sometimes they bring them down to half to sort of warn the audience, come on, folks, sit down. Yeah. And
do you think we've broken anybody's surprises by telling them this one has a happy ending?
The big ending?
Yeah.
Nah.
Nah.
And